Something unprecedented is happening across America right now, and if you're an immigrant, you need to understand what's coming. States are implementing harsh new immigration crackdowns that could put you at even greater risk than what would be possible under Trump's mass deportation campaign alone. I'm going to tell you what you need to know about recent immigration enforcement efforts at the state level and what you can do to protect yourself, and we're starting right now. I'm Brian Manning, and I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now, as an asylum lawyer, well, I help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. Let me know in the comments if you've got an asylum case pending, or maybe you're considering applying. And listen, I'd especially like to hear from you. If you've been waiting for an asylum interview with USCIS for multiple years, let me know how long you've been waiting. We're seeing a fundamental shift in how immigration is enforced in the United States. So historically, states more or less stayed out of immigration enforcement. It was considered the federal government's job, right? But that's all changing now, and changing fast, putting more immigrants at risk of contact with authorities that could result in deportation. And in some cases, deportations could happen literally within days of arrest, owing to Trump's aggressive implementation of his expanded version of the so-called expedited removal program, which can lead to removal without any access to a judge or really any due process whatsoever. What's happening in states like Florida, Texas, and Oklahoma represents something entirely new in American immigration enforcement. You see, these states aren't just supporting federal efforts anymore, they're aggressively taking action on their own, implementing harsh new measures aimed at making life as difficult as possible for immigrants. And by the way, this trend is not limited to just these 3 states. Rather, these are just a few that have been in the news lately for their aggressive anti-immigrant moves. So let me show you what's happening, starting with Florida. Governor DeSantis just signed what he calls the toughest immigration laws in the nation. Now, the state is spending nearly $300 million on enforcement, creating new state-level crimes for immigration violations, and giving police expanded powers to question and detain people that they suspect might be undocumented. They've even eliminated in-state college tuition for undocumented students, including those who've lived in Florida for basically their whole lives. So think about that. Young people who grew up in Florida who've known no other home maybe, and are now being treated as outsiders in their own state. Florida has also created a new state immigration enforcement board, led by a former federal prosecutor who's known for orchestrating controversial migrant flights out of the state. Now, over in Oklahoma, where I grew up, by the way, the new Operation Guardian program shows just how far states are willing to go. Oklahoma has basically deputized its police officers to act as immigration agents. State troopers, narcotics agents, and even local police can now work directly with ICE to arrest and detain immigrants. What started as a program focused on deporting undocumented inmates has expanded dramatically. Oklahoma authorities are now actively seeking out anyone they suspect might be in the country without authorization. The governor has made it clear no part of the state will be a safe haven for undocumented immigrants. And then there's Texas, where our law firm is based, which continues to lead the charge with Operation Lone Star. Texas has spent billions on enforcement, erected razor wire and buoy barriers in the Rio Grande, and conducted mass arrests that have frankly overwhelmed local jails. The state has deployed thousands of troopers and National Guard soldiers, creating what amounts to a state-level border patrol. By the way, if you want to maximize your chances for asylum success, then be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification so that you don't miss the insights that I share on this channel. Okay, in addition to the human cost, here's something else that's really troubling. Economists are warning that these aggressive enforcement actions could devastate state economies. Now, we're already seeing, as a result of Trump's mass deportations, labor shortages in agriculture, construction, and service industries. Farmers are watching crops rot in the fields because they can't find workers. Construction projects are falling behind schedule. Restaurants and hotels are cutting hours or just closing entirely. These labor shortages are driving up consumer prices at a time when many families are already struggling. But states are pushing ahead anyway, seemingly willing to accept significant economic damage in pursuit of these enforcement goals. But these actions and these effects are not limited to just the southern part or the more traditionally conservative part of the country. Even traditional sanctuary cities are under pressure like never before. New York City recently agreed to give ICE access to its jails, a major departure from its long-standing protective policies. Now, this happened right after federal prosecutors dropped corruption charges against Mayor Adams, raising serious questions about whether political pressure is being used to break down sanctuary protections. While cities like Chicago and San Francisco are trying to hold firm, they're facing unprecedented pressure. The proposed No Bailout for Sanctuary Cities Act, being proposed in Congress at the federal level, would cut off federal funding for everything from education and healthcare to disaster relief if cities don't cooperate with immigration enforcement. Look, I spent 11 years working for the government's two main agencies for asylum and refugee matters, and I can tell you, I've never seen anything quite like this. The federal government is on a rampage, and states are now major players in immigration enforcement, and they're using their power aggressively. During my time as an asylum officer, I saw firsthand how changes in enforcement priorities could affect people's lives. But what's happening now is different. States aren't just supporting federal enforcement anymore, they're effectively taking the lead, creating their own enforcement mechanisms and dedicating massive resources to deportation efforts. So what can you do to protect yourself? Well, some immigrants are opting to leave states that are going out of their way to make these folks feel unwelcome and indeed even terrified. I completely understand that. That's one option. But look, based on my experience both in government and now as an immigration lawyer, I believe that having a pending asylum application is probably one of the best ways to shield yourself from deportation. Now, look, there are no guarantees, but historically, even during the Trump administration's aggressive enforcement campaigns, people with pending asylum applications were generally at lower risk of detention and deportation. Trump's people have at least said that they're going to respect the asylum process. We'll see if that ends up being the case. But look, if you fear being harmed in your country, but you've not yet applied for asylum, then I urge you to talk with an asylum lawyer right away about whether applying might make sense for you. Don't wait. The environment is getting tougher by the day, and having that application on file could make a crucial difference. Think of it this way. A pending asylum application shows the government that you're actively pursuing legal status through proper channels. It provides a paper trail and a legitimate reason for your presence in the United States while your case is being decided. And to be clear, when you apply for asylum with USCIS, the letter that you receive confirming your pending application, which is called an asylum receipt notice, well, it literally includes a sentence that says that you have permission to remain in the United States while your case is decided. But look, you need to act quickly. These state crackdowns are moving fast, and we're seeing more aggressive enforcement actions every day. Law enforcement agencies are sharing information and resources in ways they never have before. And Trump's highly publicized mass deportation program is probably only getting started. If you think you might possibly qualify for asylum, you need to talk with an asylum lawyer right away. And if you already applied and you've been waiting for multiple years for your interview with USCIS, then look, I strongly recommend that you consider suing the government to force your asylum interview. You may be able to push your case forward with a mandamus lawsuit, and I think this is usually a very good idea for multiple reasons. The sooner you have your interview and get a decision, the better your chances for asylum success. If you're ready to take the next step and get help with your asylum case, then please call my office today. That number is 713-909-0401. And remember, we help people all over the country, so it really does not matter where you live. Call us right now to schedule an asylum strategy session so that we can help you to secure your future in America through asylum. Again, I'm Brian Manning, and it's truly an honor to serve you in your asylum journey.